2 years, I've been calling him a top 10 quarterback. I think he's probably moved in the top 5. Like, this guy is playing at such an incredibly high level.
They're the bullies, but they're athletic bullies. They have athletes at every level, but defense, offense, wide receivers, runners, secondary players. They're more talented than they get credit for. They're known as the bullies because of the coaches. We're going to bite kneecaps and all that. Oh, they're tough. No, they got really good athletes too.
What I'm seeing from Lamar Jackson is phenomenal. What I'm seeing from Derrick Henry is phenomenal. But it still doesn't eclipse what we're seeing from the Detroit Lions.
Detroit is now tied with Kansas City for the best record in the league at 9-1 and is the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl for the first time
in history.
Franchise.
The Detroit Lions are the best team in football. Right?
Let's be real. If you told me a few years ago that the Detroit Lions would be the team to watch, I'd probably laugh. But here we are watching a complete transformation unfold before our very own eyes. The Lions are no longer the team you'd circle on your schedule and mark them as a W. This is the team you circle on your schedule and think that you're going to get the crap beaten out of you. Like, they've become an absolute juggernaut. They have an offense that's lighting up scoreboards and a defense that is taking no prisoners. But how did we get here? How did the Detroit Lions go from the laughingstock of the NFL to one of the most feared teams in the NFL? This is why the NFL is terrified of the Detroit Lions. Are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry, along with 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year. Not only that, but they have live wagering on all major games, so if you see something mid-game and want to make a wager on it, you can. And the best part is you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And now look, you guys knew I had to come through with you guys for a promo code, so make sure that you guys are using code YouTube150 for a nice 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. That's right, we were doing 125%, but we said screw that, we're giving you guys 150% instead. Again, that is promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, but for now, let's hop back into it. Now, for beginners and to truly understand how good this team is now and how they became this good, really, we have to start with the heart of this revival, the offensive side of the ball, hands down. And now I know what you're thinking. Jared Goff, that's the guy that looked completely lost in LA, right? And yep, that's him. And what he's doing in Detroit right now is nothing short of magical. In the middle of an 8-game win streak, the Detroit Lions are averaging a jaw-dropping 36 points per game. I mean, Goff is absolutely on fire, completing over 74% of his passes. And let's not forget, in that span, again, before the Texans game, he threw 13 touchdowns to just 1 interception. And I think one of the most impressive things that we've all gotten to see Jared Goff develop from is how he was always considered more of a, kind of a game manager while he was in LA, and always was thought to be kind of more reliant on the system and the people around him. And now it's the complete opposite, as the entire city of Detroit and the Detroit Lions are leaning onto this dude. Like, I mean, in Detroit, he is absolutely shed that label of being simply just a game manager. Under the guidance of offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, Goff has become a true leader of this offense, and he's no longer just handing the ball off or executing plays. He's making audibles at the line of scrimmage, recognizing defensive schemes, and delivering pinpoint throws downfield. Like, I mean, even if we go back to that Houston Texans game, they pulled off a stunning comeback. I mean, they overcame a 16-point deficit, and Jared Goff even had 5 interceptions thrown, and they still managed to somehow come back and win 26-23. Like, as crazy as it sounds too, it really shows just how good Jared Goff has been able to play with this team around him and elevate them to another level. Even though he threw 5 interceptions, he put that behind him, overcame the 16-point deficit, and still put his team in a place to win. And I also saw this stat too, that it also marked the first time in 54 years that a team had won a game while trailing by at least 15 points and throwing 5 interceptions. Like, that is absolutely insane. I mean, I also saw this other stat from the game on Sunday against the Jags, where they scored touchdowns on their first 7 possessions. And that's a feat that hasn't been seen since the 2007 New England Patriots. And we all know how good that team was as well. But Jared Goff alone has had a passer rating above 105 in 7 games on this magical run they've had, and is averaging 8.7 yards per pass. Like, the dude is looking truly dominant. And I mean, his play style is even often described as calm and composed, yet there's quite intensity from him that just really shows how good he is. Like, I mean, he's not out there with a flashy arm or jaw-dropping athleticism, but what he brings to the table is a level of intensity intelligence and anticipation that allows him to consistently outthink defenders. And I mean, now watching Goff too, it's clear to see that he's not only like participating in the games, no. This dude is like orchestrating this offense to perfection. But there's one other thing that nobody talks about that is just playing such what I think is a significant role in Jared Goff's success. I mean, it's got to be the chip on his shoulder, no? Like after being traded for what many considered to be a downgrade, many wondered if he would even thrive away from the spotlight of Hollywood, but in Detroit, Goff is playing with something to prove. Like, I mean, even if we talk about what people were saying before this season, many people kind of were circling the games that they had outside of domes. I'm not sure how many games it is exactly, but I think it was like literally of the 17 games, I think like 14 of them were inside in a dome, which Jared Goff plays really damn well in a dome. And to see that 14 of his games were in a dome or in a enclosed space, make it that much tougher. But also that's what many people were thinking is that, oh, once he gets outside of a dome, he's not going to be that good. And well, he's proven everybody wrong that time as well. Like, I think that's really what's just so impressive about this team this year is everybody's afraid to go into Detroit, but Detroit's not afraid to go into your space and kick your own ass at your field. Like, I mean, as we look at their schedule over this 8-game win streak, they've secured victories in Dallas, Minnesota, on the road in Green Bay in tough conditions, which, I mean, that just completely showed how good Goff was in bad weather and outside of a dome, as well as Houston. Like, these wins came against playoff contenders, demonstrating this team's ability to perform under pressure and show how good they are. Like, I mean, whether it's constant noise from the critics or the pressure to live up to the expectations, Jared Goff just simply seems to be channeling it all into his play, and the results are speaking for themselves. Like, I mean, watching him command this offense, you get some sort of sense that he's playing with a giant chip on his shoulder, but also the precision of a surgeon. Like, I mean, he's no longer just the guy handing off the ball, he's the guy leading this charge. But in order to make this offense just so successful, you got to have good protection and good guys up front, right? Well, don't worry, because the Detroit Lions literally have one of the toughest, if not the toughest offensive line in the league. Like, I don't even know if you can name another offensive unit that has an offensive line as good as the Detroit Lions. Like, I mean, this group is just flat out nasty. They've built a fortress around Goff that lets him sit back in the pocket, survey the field, and absolutely pick defenses apart. They've only allowed 9 sacks this season, but what truly sets this offensive line apart is their ability to control the trenches in the run game. Like, I mean, straight up, the Lions have one of the most balanced offenses in the league, if not the most balanced offense in the league. And a huge part of that success lies in the work of the offensive line that's they're doing to open up lanes for their running backs. Like, I mean, simply put, whether it's a power run or a sweep to the outside, these guys just create the space necessary to keep defenses honest. And it's not just about the brute force. There's obviously finesse involved in this as well. Like, I mean, when they're pulling, trapping, or just like creating any movement in the offensive line, it's just poetry in motion how beautiful it is. And if you're like me, who played offensive line when they were playing football and just love the little intricacies of the offensive line, then watch them because it's just beautiful. But that's the thing, is the offensive line, they're not just blocking. They're imposing their will on these other teams. Like, it is so nasty to watch. They make defenders pay for every inch they're trying to gain, and they do it with a sense of pride that is palpable. Like, I mean, it's clear to see that this group takes immense pride in their work, and their cohesion as a unit is one of the most impressive aspects of this Lions team. Like, their collective mentality is one of pure dominance, and they know that they can outmuscle any opponents, and they show it week in and week out. But that's not even the scariest part about this offensive line. It's their versatility that they have. Like, I mean, whether it's protecting Jared Goff on a deep drop back or providing a push on a short yardage situation, the offensive line adapts to the needs of the offense for that game. Goff's success would not be there. Like, hands down, it would not be there. And we see it with many other teams. Like, for example, another team inside the NFC North, the Bears. They have a good quarterback. I truly do believe Caleb Williams is good, but their offensive line is literally holding that team so far back. Like, it is terrible. They need to figure that out. But that's a different video that we're going to post on Saturday, so be tuned for that. Like, I mean, straight up though, this offensive line for the Lions, they give him as much time as he needs to make the right read, see everything and process it, and then throw the ball where it needs to go. And honestly, I do think truly that this Lions offensive line is a big reason into why Jared Goff is having a career year, and honestly, what all Lions fans need to thank for having such a dominant year on the offensive side of the ball. Oh, but don't worry, it's not just Jared Goff and the offensive line that are doing all of the heavy lifting. No. It gets better. Like, we're just starting to talk about those two, but they have some serious weapons at their disposal. Like, I mean, straight up, tell me who's going to go out there and cover Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's out there making defenders look absolutely silly, cutting on a dime and catching everything that comes his way. Not to mention there's Sam Laporta, who's the second-year tight end who makes plays like he's been in the league for years. And I mean, between those two it's just showing how much just of a nightmare potential this team gives to defenses, and they just don't know who to focus on. Like, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown has become one of the top wide receivers in the league, and he's currently on pace for over 1,500 receiving yards, ranking in the top 5 among all wide receivers. He has 70 catches, which is top 10 in the league, averaging 90 yards per game with 7 touchdowns. Like, this dude's ability to gain separation, run crisp routes, and make clutch catches has made him Jared Goff's most trusted target. And again, these stats might be a little bit out of date because I did pull them the week before, but over the last 4 games alone, St. Brown has averaged 115 yards per game and scored 5 touchdowns, making him one of the most productive receivers in the NFL during this stretch. And as we flip to Sam Laporta, I mean, this dude has been a revelation for the Lions, quickly earning Jared Goff's trust as he's posted 25 catches for 366 yards and 3 touchdowns through the first 10 games of the season. Like, his versatility as both a pass catcher and a blocker has given the Lions a true mismatch weapon, especially in the red zone. But this is why we all came to the video, because the secret weapon, and it's not even a secret because everybody knows what's going to happen when either one of these guys get on the field, but it's the run game. I mean, this run game has been truly dominant, and what honestly makes this Lions team so damn scary. Like, I mean, the Lions running backs, notably David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, as we all have seen, have contributed significantly to the offense as well, as Montgomery is averaging 4.3 yards per carry and has 10 total touchdowns, while Gibbs has shown flashes of elite explosiveness, averaging 6 yards per carry and 10 total touchdowns on the season. Like, the dual threat of Montgomery's power and Gibbs' speed really is what keeps defenses so honest and prevents them from keying in on the passing game. Right now, the Lions are currently ranked 3rd in the NFL in total yards per game, averaging 394 plus yards per game of total offense, while they also rank 1st in points per game with 33.6, which is really just a true testament to how well-rounded of a nature this attack is, which features both high efficiency and passing, as well as, I mean, the ground game that is just truly the scariest part of this team. But now, as we flip to the defensive side of the ball, it's actually crazy the thing that I did learn about them while making this video that I'm going to tell you guys as well, because this defense was always literally the punching bag of the NFL, but with the additions and the stat that I'm about to tell you guys, they're no longer the punching bag of the NFL. No, they are punching teams in the face themselves. And you know what? I'm not even going to hold it back. It's the secondary. Like, the secondary has completely turned this team around and has honestly been one of the weaker parts of their team, especially last year when you look at it. But this year it has been just chef's kiss, truly dominant. Like, quarterbacks now have to think twice before throwing into Lions coverage. Like, it is an absolutely no-fly zone out there. This defense is no longer just about keeping the game close. They are forcing turnovers. They're setting the tone and they're putting offenses on notice. Like, as I said before, it is just a complete 180 from what we saw a couple seasons ago. And now, yes, I know you might say something like, oh, they're 7th in the NFL, allowing 232 yards per game. But I mean, after being one of the worst teams against the pass, they've completely turned it around in their secondary that's led by Brian Branch and Carlton Davis, who have both been outstanding, as Branch has 4 interceptions and 13 pass breakups, while Joseph has made crucial plays, including 2 key interceptions in their game in the comeback win against the Texans. But that is truly what makes this team so much better than others. They are forcing so many damn turnovers. Like, they're top 5, I think, in the league with forcing turnovers. And yeah, as I'm looking at it right now, they forced 14 interceptions and 5 fumbles, which is tied for 4th in the NFL, actually. Like, their aggressive defensive scheme, spearheaded by defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, has allowed them to consistently disrupt opposing offenses. And the craziest part too is that even though they have lost Hutch and they have traded for Zadarius Smith, which I do think is going to be just so much help on that end, their front 7 has been still absolutely relentless, ranking 14th in the league with 24 sacks. And I mean, the Lions just have been able to get just consistent pressure on quarterbacks despite not having Hutch there. They're also much more stout against the run, allowing just 100 rushing yards per game, which ranks 6th in the NFL. And this marks a drastic improvement from the last few seasons when Detroit's run defense was one of the worst in the league. I mean, the Lions have just kept opponents from dominating on the ground game in key moments, and they've stepped up and stopped critical 3rd and short runs, making it easier to read when the teams are going to pass. As we all know, though, we have one person to thank for all this, maybe even 2 if you want to include Ben Johnson, but it's Dan Campbell. The dude has lived up to what he came in and said he's going to do, and he's been biting off kneecaps week in and week out. Like, I mean, his intensity and player-first mentality has absolutely transformed his Lions squad into a team that plays with heart, passion, and a kind of gritty and toughness that fans absolutely adore. And yes, you can say it's Campbell's fiery leadership, but Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, has been a magician. Like, I mean, his game plans are just as unpredictable as they are effective, and he's taken the talent at his disposal and created an offense that defenses can't plan for, consistently keeping them on their toes. But I mean, honestly, as we just move further and further into the season, the belief in this locker room is just almost palpable. Like, this group of guys isn't isn't just playing football, it's like a brotherhood. They're a team that fights for each other each and every snap, and that's the sense of unity that has given the Lions an edge, a resilience that allows them to come back stronger after every single setback. It's this attitude, this heart of a lion, see what I did there, that's turned them from underdogs into legitimate contenders. Like, the confidence is oozing from every corner of this team, and you can't help but feel that something special is about to happen in Detroit. And trust me, this is only the beginning. And if you want to see why Patrick Mahomes wasn't the #1 overall pick in the 2017 draft, then click this video right here.